Summer camp should be filled with laughter, friendship, and memories that last a lifetime. But at Camp Wildwood in July 2011, one evening would transform joy into mystery, hope into heartbreak, and ultimately reveal the incredible power of human resilience. Kwame Asante had been the heart of Camp Wildwood for 5 summers. At 27, his infectious energy and genuine care for every child had earned him the nickname Brother Kwame, a title that filled him with pride. But nothing could have prepared him for what would become the most challenging experience of his life. Before I tell you how this impossible story unfolds, I need to know, where are you right now? Are you listening to this on your way to work? Maybe you're at home with the lights dimmed? Drop a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from, because stories like this bring our community together, and I absolutely love hearing from each and every one of you. The stars of our story were 8-year-old twins Aisha and Amara Okafor. These remarkable sisters shared an unbreakable bond and an extraordinary talent for creative play. Their parents, Dr. Falaki Okafor and Professor Adebayo Okafor, had specifically requested an experienced counselor for their precocious daughters. These girls have been master hide-and-seek players since they could walk, Dr. Okafor had warmly warned Kwame during camp registration. They once created such an elaborate hiding spot during a family gathering that we spent hours searching before finding them safe and sound in our attic. Aisha, the elder by 12 minutes, was the strategist, always sketching maps and devising creative plans. Amara, quieter but equally determined, possessed an almost supernatural ability to discover hidden spaces and secret passages. Together they formed an unstoppable team of imagination and adventure. July 15th brought Camp Wildwood's crown jewel event, the annual talent show. The evening buzzed with excitement as parents secured the best seats, delicious barbecue filled the air, and counselors prepared for an unforgettable night under the pine trees. Aisha and Amara had spent weeks perfecting their act, the Great Vanishing Sisters. They'd crafted elaborate costumes from arts and crafts supplies, shimmering capes made from emergency blankets, magic wands decorated with glitter, and matching headbands that sparkled under the stage lights. "Ladies and gentlemen," Aisha announced with theatrical flair that would make any Broadway performer proud, "prepare to witness the impossible. We're going to disappear right before your eyes," Amara added, her usually shy voice carrying with confidence, "and reappear somewhere you'll never expect." What happened next seemed like perfect magic. Behind a makeshift curtain constructed from camp blankets, the twins executed their carefully choreographed routine. When the curtain dropped, the audience gasped in amazement. The stage was completely empty except for 2 glittering capes in a single note. "Gone but not forgotten. Find us if you can. Aisha and Amara." The crowd erupted in applause and laughter. Parents snapped photos, younger campers jumped with excitement, and counselors shook their heads in admiration. It appeared to be the perfect end to a perfect summer evening. But as minutes passed and the twins didn't return for their well-deserved bow, Kwame's smile began to fade. This wasn't part of their rehearsed routine. "Aisha! Amara!" Kwame called out, scanning the sea of faces. "Time to come out and take your applause." The first 12 hours felt like an elaborate extension of the twins' magic show. Counselors checked obvious locations: under beds, in supply closets, behind the dining hall. Fellow campers joined enthusiastically, treating it like an extended game and giggling at the sisters' cleverness. "They're probably watching us right now," laughed head counselor Sarah Williams as she searched near the lake. "Aisha and Amara are too creative to get truly lost." But as the sun rose on July 16th, laughter transformed into genuine concern. Falak Okafor arrived at dawn, her usual composure cracking when she learned her daughters hadn't been seen since the talent show. Professor Adebayo followed shortly after, his typically immaculate appearance disheveled from a night of frantic phone calls. "They wouldn't run away," Dr. Okafor insisted, her voice trembling with worry. "Aisha and Amara love this camp more than anything. They've been talking about it all year. Something unexpected must have happened." The official search operation began at 8 a.m. with military precision. Sheriff Malik Thompson, a 20-year veteran of rural law enforcement, coordinated teams of volunteers, park rangers, and search dogs. The peaceful camp transformed into a command center, with maps spread across picnic tables and radio communication filling the morning air. Kwame found himself at the center of increasingly detailed questioning. Detective Zara Mensah, brought in from the state police, approached the investigation with both kindness and determination. "Walk me through yesterday evening again, Mr. Asante." "Every detail, no matter how small," she requested patiently. "They performed at 7:30, Kwame repeated, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "The magic show lasted about 5 minutes. When they didn't come out for applause, I assumed they were adding dramatic flair. You know how creative 8-year-olds can be. When did you realize something was different?" "Around 8:15, I went backstage to congratulate them, but they weren't there. Just their costumes and that note." Detective Mensah studied the note carefully through an evidence bag. The handwriting was unmistakably Aisha's. Her distinctive loops and careful spacing were immediately recognizable. But something about the message intrigued her. "Gone but not forgotten. That's quite sophisticated language for 8-year-olds, she observed. "Both girls are exceptionally advanced," Professor Okafor explained, his voice hoarse from calling his daughters names throughout the night. "They read at high school levels. Aisha dreams of becoming a writer. Amara loves poetry. They naturally use sophisticated vocabulary." The search expanded dramatically throughout the day. Helicopters circled overhead with thermal imaging equipment. Search dogs tracked the twins' scent to the Arts and Crafts building, then mysteriously lost it at the main entrance, as if the girls had simply vanished into thin air. By evening, media attention had arrived. The story captured everything news producers sought: beloved missing children, a summer camp setting, and the mystery of their theatrical disappearance. Dr. Okafor's heartfelt plea dominated evening broadcasts across the nation. "Aisha, Amara, if you can hear this message, please know that Mama and Baba love you beyond measure. We're not upset, we're just worried. Please, sweet girls, help us find you." Day 3 brought federal involvement. Agent Kenya Washington, a specialist in missing children cases, established systematic investigation protocols. Every camper, counselor, and parent underwent extensive interviews. Backgrounds were verified, and the camp's records were thoroughly examined. The media attention intensified exponentially. The case was featured on national television, complete with reenactments and expert analysis. The camp's phone lines were overwhelmed with tips from concerned citizens, though none led to breakthrough discoveries. Kwame watched his world transform overnight. Social media discussions questioned his supervision and competence. Parents withdrew their children from camp early. Local newspapers published editorials about youth organization oversight. Camp director Patricia Collins, who had dedicated 30 years to child welfare, made the heartbreaking announcement that Camp Wildwood would close permanently. "I cannot guarantee the safety of the children in our care," she said through tears. "If we somehow failed Aisha and Amara, we have failed everyone who trusted us." Search efforts became increasingly desperate. Professional divers explored the lake's depths, finding only decades of accumulated debris. Ground-penetrating radar scanned the forest floor. Volunteers walked careful grid patterns through dense underbrush, calling the twins' names until their voices grew hoarse. Child psychologists arrived to provide insights into the case. Dr. Michael Asiedu, a specialist in child behavior, offered professional analysis to the investigation team. "Aisha and Amara have always excelled at creative hiding games," he explained. "Their parents describe elaborate scenarios and ingenious hiding spots. But this situation feels fundamentally different. They wouldn't willingly cause this level of family distress." By day 6, official search efforts were scaling back. Statistical models painted a challenging picture for children missing in wilderness settings beyond 72 hours. The July heat had been intense, reaching 95 degrees during the day. "We must prepare for all possibilities," Agent Washington told the Okafor family in a private meeting that would haunt everyone present. Camp Wildwood's final day was profoundly emotional. Remaining campers packed in unusual silence, many crying as they departed. The camp had been a summer tradition for families spanning generations. Now it was simply another location marked by investigation tape. Kwame helped with cleanup, unable to leave despite the whispers and suspicious glances. Every cabin held precious memories of the twins, their artwork on bulletin boards, their names written in marker on walls, their favorite spots during morning activities. In the Arts and Crafts building, he discovered one of Amara's unfinished friendship bracelets, purple and gold beads strung in her characteristic pattern. He carefully placed it in his pocket, a meaningful connection to happier times. The official investigation remained open, but became inactive. The case file grew thick with unsubstantiated leads and desperate theories from amateur investigators. A reward fund established by the Okafor family reached 100,000, generating thousands of tips, but no real breakthroughs. Kwame left youth counseling within 6 months. The joy he'd once found in working with children was replaced by constant anxiety and self-doubt. He relocated to Portland, Oregon, taking a quiet data entry position where he could focus on spreadsheets rather than painful memories. October 12, 2023. 12 years of carefully structured routine had given Kwame's life stability, if not complete happiness. His Portland apartment was simply furnished but comfortable, his work predictable but reliable. He'd even begun dating again, cautiously, with a kindergarten teacher named Lisa who didn't know about his past. The phone call came at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday. Kwame almost ignored it. Unknown numbers usually meant telemarketers, but something compelled him to answer. Mr. Asante, this is Marcus Reed from Reed Development Corporation. I'm calling about Camp Wildwood. Kwame's heart stopped. He'd managed to avoid thinking about the camp for months at a time, but hearing its name spoken aloud brought everything flooding back. We purchased the property last month for a luxury eco-resort development, but we've encountered some unusual situations during renovation, Marcus continued nervously. Our construction crews are reporting sounds, children's voices, from the old arts and crafts building. Since you were the last counselor on record, I hoped you might have insights into the building's history. The rational part of Kwame's mind offered logical explanations. Old buildings settling, wind through damaged windows, workers' imaginations influenced by local stories. But the part of him that still dreamed about Aisha and Amara whispered something entirely different. What kind of sounds? He found himself asking. Children singing sometimes. Laughter. One worker insists he heard someone say, "Ready or not, here we come." It's probably nothing, but the crew is concerned, and we're behind schedule. Kwame made a decision that would change everything. I'll drive down this weekend. The 6-hour drive felt like traveling through time. Every mile marker brought back memories. The twins' excitement during their bus ride to camp, their enthusiastic chatter about planned activities, their absolute confidence that this would be the best summer ever. Camp Wildwood in October resembled something from a Gothic novel. 12 years of abandonment had transformed the cheerful summer retreat into something mysterious and haunting. Broken windows stared like empty eyes, vines had consumed entire cabins, and the once pristine lake was filled with algae and fallen branches. Marcus Reed met him at the main gate, a nervous man in his 50s wearing an expensive suit completely inappropriate for the setting. Thank you for coming, Mr. Asante. I know this must be incredibly difficult. As they walked toward the Arts and Crafts building, everything felt smaller than Kwame remembered, as if the camp had been a miniature playset rather than a real place where real children had laughed, learned, and created lasting memories. The Arts and Crafts building stood in remarkably good condition, its log construction having weathered the years better than other structures. But something felt different about it, not physically, but atmospherically. The building seemed to be waiting for something. The sound started about 2 weeks ago, Marcus explained as they approached the entrance. Always during the day, never at night. My foreman refuses to work in there anymore. The interior was a perfect time capsule. Dust covered everything like gray snow, but the basic layout remained unchanged. Easels still held ancient finger paintings, supply shelves contained dried markers and crumbling construction paper, and in the corner, the large supply closet remained exactly as Kwame remembered. Where do the workers hear the voices? Kwame asked, though he already suspected the answer. From over there, Marcus pointed toward the supply closet. Behind that back wall, Kwame approached with trembling hands. The rational part of his mind insisted this was grief-induced imagination, but his heart was pounding with an inexplicable mixture of hope and fear. He pressed his ear against the back wall of the closet and listened. At first, nothing but his own racing heartbeat. Then so faint he almost missed it, something that made him stagger backward in shock. humming. Two voices, slightly out of sync, humming a song he recognized. The Camp Wildwood anthem they'd sung every morning during flag ceremonies. "Do you hear that?" he whispered to Marcus. "Hear what?" But Kwame was already moving, pushing aside supply shelves with strength born of desperate hope. 12 years of dust and spider webs couldn't disguise what he was searching for. The subtle variation in wood grain that indicated a hidden panel. His fingers found the nearly invisible latch, painted to match the surrounding wall. The small door opened with a soft click that sounded thunderous in the silence. Behind it was a space barely large enough for two small children, and evidence that defied every assumption about the twins' disappearance. Fresh water bottles, recently opened food packages, two sleeping bags that couldn't have been there for 12 years, and covering every inch of the walls, dozens upon dozens of drawings in the distinctive artistic styles Kwame remembered. But these weren't the finger paintings of 8-year-olds. The artwork showed progression, maturity, the development of skills over time. Early drawings depicted confusion and adaptation, two little girls learning to survive in an impossible situation. But later pieces showed creativity, resilience, even moments of joy and discovery. At the bottom of each drawing, dates written in handwriting that had evolved from a child's scrawl to a young woman's elegant script. Day 1, Aisha and Amara's great adventure. Day 47, discovered the tunnel system. Day 156, learning new survival skills. Day 892, happy 12th birthday to us. Day 247, still the ultimate hide-and-seek champions. Day 2891, we miss Brother Kwame. Day 4380, 20 years old today. Still here, still hoping. Kwame's knees gave out as the impossible truth overwhelmed him. Aisha and Amara hadn't been harmed. They hadn't been taken by strangers. They'd done exactly what they'd always done, found the perfect hiding place, and waited patiently for someone to find them. But their perfect hiding place had been too perfect. The crawl space connected to Camp Wildwood's forgotten maintenance tunnel system, a network of passages built in the 1960s and abandoned when the camp updated its infrastructure. The twins had discovered an entire hidden world beneath the camp, tunnels connecting to various buildings and even pathways leading toward the nearby town. A sound from deeper in the tunnel system made Kwame freeze. Footsteps. Two sets, moving in the synchronized pattern he remembered from 12 years ago. "Aisha?" he called out, his voice breaking with emotion. "Amara?" The footsteps stopped. "Brother Kwame?" The voice was older, deeper, but unmistakably Aisha's. "Is that really you?" Two figures emerged from the tunnel's depths, and Kwame's heart both shattered and healed simultaneously. No longer 8-year-old children, but 20-year-old women with the same intelligent eyes, the same warm smiles, the same unmistakable bond that had made them inseparable. Aisha, still the natural leader, stepped forward first. She was taller than her sister now, with hair twisted into intricate braids and clothes that were clearly handmade but skillfully crafted. Amara followed, quieter as always, but her artist's hands showed evidence of continued creativity that had flourished even in isolation. "We won," Aisha said quietly, and Kwame could hear both pride and deep sadness in her voice. "We became the ultimate hide-and-seek champions. We hid so well that everyone eventually stopped looking for us. We didn't intend for it to continue so long," Amara added, tears beginning to flow. "But every time we considered emerging, we heard people saying we were gone forever. We didn't know how to suddenly be alive again after everyone had accepted that we weren't." Over the following hours, as authorities were contacted and the miraculous rescue operation began, the twins revealed the extraordinary life they'd built in the spaces between the world above and the earth below. The maintenance tunnels had provided the foundation for survival, but their remarkable ingenuity had transformed mere existence into something resembling normalcy. They'd learned to forage safely, to preserve food using techniques discovered through careful experimentation, to create tools and supplies from discarded materials. "We adapted to become primarily nocturnal," Aisha explained to the growing crowd of investigators, paramedics, and eventually their overwhelmed parents. "We'd wait until areas were completely empty, then emerge briefly to gather necessities. Books from library donation bins, clothes from charity collections, food that was being discarded by local businesses. We were always careful never to take anything someone might need, Amara added quickly, her moral compass still perfectly intact after 12 years of isolation. We only collected things that were clearly unwanted or being thrown away. They'd created remarkable structure in their underground world, daily schedules for education, physical exercise, and creative expression. Aisha had taught herself advanced mathematics and literature using textbooks found in school recycling. Amara had developed into an extraordinary artist, creating pigments from natural materials and working on increasingly sophisticated pieces. We celebrated birthdays, holidays, special occasions, Dr. Okafor whispered as she held her daughters for the first time in 12 years, tears streaming down her face. You celebrated all alone? All this time? Not alone, the twins said in perfect unison, their old synchronization completely intact. We always had each other. Always had. Medical examinations revealed the physical toll of 12 years underground. Both women showed signs of vitamin D deficiency, their skin pale from lack of natural sunlight. Their social development had remained frozen at 8-year-old levels in many ways. They communicated primarily with each other, finishing sentences and using complex private signals they'd developed over the years. Most significantly, they'd missed the crucial developmental transition from childhood to adulthood. Physically, they'd grown into women. Emotionally and psychologically, they remained in many ways the 8-year-olds who'd stepped behind that talent show curtain in July 2011. But they'd also developed extraordinary resilience and survival skills that amazed professionals. Their ability to adapt, to create structure and meaning in impossible circumstances, to maintain hope and connection despite complete isolation, demonstrated remarkable human capacity for survival and growth. The discovery of the living Okafor twins sent shockwaves through law enforcement, media, and the missing children advocacy community. Search protocols would be revolutionized. Investigation procedures would be completely rewritten. The possibility that missing children might be hiding rather than taken would forever change how cases were approached. Detective Zara Mensah, now a lieutenant, wept openly as she met the young women she'd spent months searching for 12 years earlier. We looked everywhere we could think of, she told them with profound emotion. Everywhere except the place you actually were. You looked in the places adults would naturally search, Aisha replied, with startling insight that impressed everyone present. But we hid in the places children would instinctively choose. Agent Kenya Washington, now retired from the FBI, called it the most significant case of her career. This fundamentally changes everything we think we know about missing children investigations. These remarkable young women survived because they were intelligent, resourceful, and had each other. But they remained missing because adults and children think in completely different ways. The media attention was immediate and overwhelming. News crews surrounded the hospital where the twins were undergoing comprehensive medical evaluation. International attention focused on the story of the Tunnel twins, who'd survived 12 years underground through pure determination and sisterly bond. But for Kwame, the most important moment came when he sat quietly with Aisha and Amara in their hospital room, finally able to ask the question that had haunted him for 12 years. Why didn't you come out when you heard us searching so desperately? We called your names for days. We looked absolutely everywhere we could think of. The twins exchanged one of their meaningful glances before Aisha answered thoughtfully. We heard you calling our names, but we also heard other people saying we were probably gone forever, that the search was becoming hopeless. We became frightened that if we suddenly appeared, we'd be in serious trouble for hiding for so long. And then, Amara continued softly, after several weeks passed, it felt like we'd been gone too long to simply walk out casually. Like everyone had moved forward with their lives. We didn't want to cause more pain by suddenly reappearing when people had learned to accept our absence. So we decided to remain hidden until someone naturally discovered our hiding place. Aisha finished. We knew that eventually someone would find our secret space. We just had to wait patiently. But we never stopped hoping you'd be the one to find us, Brother Kwame, Amara added with deep affection. You were always the best at understanding exactly how we thought and what we needed. The Okafor family's reunion was a complex mixture of overwhelming processed grief and unprecedented challenges. Dr. Falak and Professor Adebayo had spent 12 years mourning their daughters, accepting their loss, and learning to build meaningful lives despite unimaginable heartbreak. Now they faced the beautiful but bewildering task of reconnecting with young women who were simultaneously their beloved children and complete strangers. They're like travelers from another time, Dr. Folake explained to the team of psychologists assembled to support the family's transition. Physically, they're 20 years old, but emotionally, they're still 8 in many fundamental ways. They remember us exactly as we were 12 years ago, but we've changed, grown, processed grief, and evolved. It's like trying to bridge two completely different universes. The twins struggled with basic concepts that most 20-year-olds took completely for granted. Social media was utterly incomprehensible. Smartphones seemed like magical devices from science fiction. Cultural references, fashion trends, music, everything from the past 12 years was completely foreign territory, requiring patient explanation. But they'd also developed extraordinary abilities that amazed everyone. Amara's paintings created with natural pigments and primitive tools during their underground years, showed sophisticated understanding of color and composition that impressed professional artists. Aisha had composed thousands of lines of poetry and stories entirely in her memory, never having materials to write them down. They're like brilliant survivors, Dr. Michael Asiedu observed during evaluation sessions, isolated from normal social development, but forced to become incredibly self-reliant, creative, and resilient in ways most people never experience. The integration process was gradual and often emotionally challenging. The twins experienced panic attacks in crowds, couldn't tolerate bright lights after years of living in dim spaces, and had significant difficulty trusting anyone outside their immediate family circle. But they also demonstrated remarkable adaptability and determination, the same qualities that had kept them alive and mentally healthy for 12 years in impossible circumstances. Kwame became an essential member of their support system. His guilt transformed into purposeful dedication as he helped bridge the gap between the 8-year-olds he remembered and the extraordinary young women they'd become. "You kept your most important promise," Aisha told him during one of their regular sessions. "You said you'd always work to keep us safe at camp, and ultimately, you did. You found us exactly when we needed to be found, when we were finally ready to return to the world." As the twins' incredible story unfolded publicly, investigators realized their 12-year underground presence had inadvertently provided solutions to several other local mysteries. From their hidden observation points, they'd witnessed events that had puzzled law enforcement for years. They'd observed suspicious activities, unusual behaviors, and concerning incidents that had gone unnoticed by official investigations. Their testimony led to resolution of multiple cold cases and demonstrated the unique perspective that prolonged, undetected observation could provide. "We tried to help when we could," Aisha explained to Detective Mensah during extensive debriefing sessions. "We left subtle clues, moved objects strategically, tried to signal when something seemed wrong. But adults don't notice the same details that children naturally observe." Most significantly, their survival story revolutionized search and rescue protocols nationwide. The Okafor protocol now requires searchers to think like children, to examine spaces that seem impossible or impractical, to seriously consider that missing children might be successfully hiding rather than lost, injured, or taken. Aisha and Amara Okafor have become powerful symbols of human resilience and the extraordinary capacity for adaptation under impossible circumstances. Their story has been shared through books, documentaries, academic research, and international conferences about missing children, survival psychology, and the critical importance of never abandoning hope. But more importantly, they've begun building the lives that were interrupted at age 8. Aisha enrolled in college to study creative writing, her 12 years of composing elaborate stories in her memory, providing a unique foundation for formal education. Her memoir, The Longest Game, Our Underground Years, became an international bestseller, with all proceeds donated to missing children organizations worldwide. Amara's artwork has been displayed in galleries across multiple countries. Her pieces, created with unconventional materials and techniques developed during their underground years, have been celebrated for their raw emotional power and completely unique perspective on isolation, survival, and hope. Both women continue intensive therapy to address the complex psychological effects of their extraordinary childhood experience. Progress is steady and encouraging. They're gradually learning to navigate a world that moved forward without them while honoring and integrating the profound experiences that shaped their character and resilience. The Camp Wildwood property has been completely transformed into the Okafor Center for Missing Children, a cutting-edge research facility and training center for law enforcement professionals, social workers, and search and rescue teams. The original arts and crafts building remains carefully preserved, maintained as a monument to the power of hope and the incredible complexity of human survival. Kwame Asante left his quiet data entry position to become a full-time advocate for families of missing children. His unique perspective, as someone who experienced both the devastating guilt of perceived failure and the overwhelming joy of unexpected recovery, makes him an exceptionally effective counselor for other families facing similar tragedies. The twins taught me that both abandoning hope and maintaining hope can be essential forms of survival, he often tells families during counseling sessions. Their parents survived 12 years of profound grief by learning to build meaningful lives despite unimaginable loss. Aisha and Amara survived 12 years of complete isolation by maintaining absolute faith that they would eventually be found and welcomed home. Both responses were necessary, courageous, and ultimately expressions of deep love. The Okafor twins still live with their parents, though they've gained significant independence and regularly venture into the world on carefully planned adventures. They're learning to drive vehicles, to use modern technology effectively, to navigate social situations that most people mastered during childhood and adolescence. They don't play hide and seek anymore, not the literal game that defined their childhood and inadvertently shaped their survival story, but in many ways they're still engaged in a version of it. Every day involves balancing their continued challenges while seeking normalcy and connection. Every social interaction requires managing their unique perspective while searching for genuine understanding and friendship. We became the ultimate hide-and-seek champions, Amara said during a recent interview, her artistic hands gesturing expressively. But the victory wasn't what we originally expected. We thought winning meant never being found. Now we understand that winning actually means finding your way back to the people who love you unconditionally. Dr. Foleke and Professor Adebayo have become passionate advocates for other families experiencing missing children situations, their story providing both realistic hope and practical guidance based on lived experience. They understand both sides of the equation, the devastating despair of loss and the beautiful complexity of unexpected recovery. We spent 12 years learning to live meaningfully without our daughters, Dr. Foleke often explains during speaking engagements. Now we're learning to live joyfully with the remarkable young women they became while they were away from us. Both processes require identical qualities: infinite patience, unconditional love, and unwavering faith that families can heal and grow, even when they're fundamentally changed by their experiences. The town of Millbrook has embraced the twins as beloved local heroes while respectfully honoring their ongoing need for privacy and normalcy. Children still play hide and seek in local parks, but parents watch more attentively now, understanding that the most creative hiding places aren't always the safest choices. Camp Wildwood's legacy has been completely transformed, from a cautionary tale about institutional oversight to an inspiring story about extraordinary human resilience, family love, and the power of never giving up hope. The camp's original motto, long forgotten during the tragic years, has been beautifully restored to the entrance of the Okafor Center, where every child finds their way. For Aisha and Amara Okafor, the longest game of hide and seek in history is finally completely over. They were found by someone who truly understood them. They were welcomed home with overwhelming love, and they were embraced exactly as they were, not as the 8-year-olds who disappeared on that summer evening, but as the extraordinary young women they became while the entire world searched for them. The game has ended, but their story continues to inspire and educate. And sometimes that transformation from tragedy to triumph represents the most important victory possible. In the end, the twins' remarkable tale transcends simple survival or family reunion or the power of hope. It's about the hidden spaces between worlds, the secret places where children become adults, where devastating loss can transform into incredible discovery, where the longest games sometimes conclude with the most surprising and beautiful endings. Aisha and Amara Okafor proved that home isn't always a place you return to unchanged. Sometimes it's a place you help create while you're patiently waiting to be found. And sometimes the people who finally find you are the ones who never truly stopped believing you were still out there, still playing the game, still hoping for reunion. Their story reminds us that even in our darkest moments, even when hope seems impossible, extraordinary things can happen. Love endures, families heal, and sometimes the most incredible magic happens not on a stage, but in the quiet spaces where hope meets determination and creates miracles that change everything. The Okafor Center for Missing Children continues to train search and rescue professionals using the revolutionary Okafor protocol. Aisha's writing and Amara's artwork continue to inspire audiences worldwide. And somewhere in Millbrook, children still play hide and seek. But now their parents know to look in the most creative places of all. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey into one of the most disturbing cases I've ever covered. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe for more true crime content and let me know in the comments what case you'd like me to investigate next. Until then, stay safe out there.